Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance, watching the stars through the main screen. His ship was far from Earth, exploring the dark corners of space where no human had ever been before. The Defiance was not a big ship, but it was tough. It carried 200 brave men and women into the unknown. Dr. Lisa Grant, the ship's science officer, looked up from her computer. She was a smart woman who had spent years studying alien life. "Captain, I'm getting some strange readings. From Sector 7, she said. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the worry in it. Commander Ryan Burke, who handled the ship's weapons, moved to his station. He was a good soldier who had fought in many battles. "Sir, I'm seeing something big coming our way," he said. "Really big." Marine Captain Tony Rodriguez checked his gear. He was tough as nails and led the ship's fighters. "Whatever it is, we're ready for it," he said with a grin. The stars on the screen suddenly changed. Where there had been empty space, now there were ships. But these were not human ships. They were huge, dark, and scary. Each one was 3 times bigger than the Defiance. They looked like they could eat planets for breakfast. "Holy cow," whispered the pilot, Lieutenant Sam Carter. He had been flying for 10 years, but he had never seen anything like this. A voice came through the ship's speakers. It was deep and rough, like rocks grinding together. "Small ship, you will stop and prepare to be boarded. You are now in Vorthak, space. You will obey or you will die." Jake looked at his crew. They were scared, but they were not running. That was what he loved about humans. When things got tough, they got tougher. Dr. Grant was reading her instruments fast. "Captain, they're huge, 8 feet tall, covered in what looks like natural armor. Their technology is way ahead of ours." The alien voice spoke again. "I am Admiral Krexthor of the Vorthak Empire. For 300 years we have ruled this part of space. Every species we meet bows before us or dies. You will choose now." Jake stepped forward. He was not a big man, but he had something the aliens did not understand. He had human spirit. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earthship Defiance. We're explorers, not fighters. But we don't bow to anyone." There was silence from the alien ships. Then a sound came through the speakers. It sounded like laughing, but it was cold and mean. "You are amusing, little creature," Admiral Krexthor said. "Your ship is tiny. Your weapons are weak. Yet you dare to speak to the mighty Vorthak as an equal?" "We speak to everyone as equals," Jake said. "That's just how humans are." Dr. Grant was studying the alien ships. "Captain, their shields are incredibly strong. Their weapons could turn us into space dust in seconds." Commander Burke was ready at his weapons station. "Sir, what are your orders?" The alien admiral spoke again. "You will surrender your ship and your crew. Your people will serve the Vorthak Empire. This is your only chance to live." Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was waiting for his answer. They trusted him to make the right choice. "Admiral Krexthor," he said, "here's our answer. Go to hell." The alien ships immediately opened. Fire. Bright plasma beams shot through space toward the Defiance. The human ship shook as the energy weapons hit its shields. "Shields down to 60%, shouted Lieutenant Kim Park from her station. "Evasive maneuvers," Jake ordered. The Defiance twisted and turned through space like a dancing bird. Commander Burke fired back with everything they had. The human weapons were smaller, but they were fast and accurate. "Direct hit on their lead cruiser," he reported. The Vorthak had expected the human ship to explode or surrender immediately. Instead, it was fighting back, and it was doing something they had never seen before. "Sir, they're not following any standard battle plan," reported Sub-Commander Thekmore to Admiral Krexthor. "They're moving in ways we cannot predict." Engineer Chief Pete Johnson was working magic in the engine room. "Captain, I'm routing all power to engines and weapons. We can keep this up for maybe 10 minutes. The Defiance spun and dove between the massive alien ships. It was like a small fish swimming between whales. The Vorthak tried to follow, but their big ships were slow and clumsy. Marine Captain Rodriguez had an idea. "Captain, what if we ram them? Are you crazy?" asked Dr. Grant. "Maybe," Rodriguez grinned. "But crazy might work." Jake thought for a second. The aliens expected them to fight like aliens. But humans were different. "Do it," he said. The Defiance suddenly changed direction and flew straight at one of the alien cruisers. The Vorthak ship tried to turn away, but it was too slow. The human ship smashed into its side, tearing a huge hole in its armor. "Secondary explosions in the alien ship," reported Burke. "They're losing power." The other Vorthak ships stopped firing. They could not believe what they had seen. A tiny human ship had just damaged one of their mighty cruisers by ramming it. Admiral Krexthor was confused and angry. "What kind of species fights like this?" he demanded. The Defiance pulled away from the damaged cruiser. It was hurt too, but it was still fighting. "This is impossible," said Subcommander Techmore. "They should be dead. Their ship should be destroyed." But humans were hard to kill. Engineer Johnson had fixed the worst damage in minutes. "We're still flying, Captain," he reported. Dr. Grant was amazed at her own people. "We just took on ships 10 times our size and survived." Jake knew this was just the beginning. The aliens would come back with more ships. But they had learned something important today. Humans were not like other species. They did not give up. They did not surrender. They fought until they won or died trying. "All hands, this is the captain," Jake announced to his crew. "Today we met aliens who thought they could push us around. We showed them they were wrong. This is just the start. They'll be back and we'll be ready." The Vorthak ships began to pull back. Admiral Krexthor was thinking hard. These humans were different from any species he had ever met. They were small and weak, but they fought like demons. This would require a new plan. As the alien fleet disappeared into the darkness of space, the crew of the Defiance began repairs. They had won the first battle, but they knew the war was just beginning. The aliens thought they were tough. They were about to learn what tough really meant. The news traveled fast through human space. Within 3 days, every Earth colony knew about the fight with the aliens. People were scared, but they were also angry. Nobody threatened humanity and got away with it. General Patricia Hayes sat in the big war room on Earth. She was a tough woman who had fought in many battles. Around the table sat the best military minds humanity had. Admiral Charles Webb, Dr. Kevin Park, and Colonel Sandra Price all looked serious. "So these Vorthak think they can push us around?" General Hayes said. Her voice was hard as steel. "They picked the wrong species." Admiral Webb studied the reports from Captain Morrison's ship. "Their technology is better than ours, but Jake's crew proved they can be beaten. We just need to be smarter." Dr. Park had been working all night on battle plans. He was the smartest military scientist on Earth. "Look at this," he said, showing pictures on the big screen. "Their ships are huge and powerful, but they're slow. Our ships are small and fast. We can dance around them like bees around a bear." Colonel Price was already thinking about ground fighting. She trained the best soldiers in human space. "What about when we have to fight them face to face?" she asked. "That's where it gets interesting," Dr. Park said. "They're 8 feet tall and strong as bulls, but that makes them slow. Our Marines are smaller and faster. In close fighting, speed beats strength." Meanwhile, far out in space, Captain Morrison and his crew were learning more about their enemies. They had been attacking small Vorthak patrols for 2 weeks. Each fight taught them something new. Engineer Pete Johnson had discovered something important. "Captain, their shields have a weak spot. If we hit them with the right frequency, we can punch right through." Dr. Grant had been studying captured alien equipment. "Their armor is strong, but it's heavy. They move like tanks. We move like wolves." Marine Captain Rodriguez was grinning as he cleaned his weapons. "I can't wait to show these lizards what human Marines can do up close." Back on the Vorthak homeworld, War Master Thokvar was very angry. He was bigger and meaner than Admiral Krexthor. The Emperor had given him 50 warships and 10,000 troops. His job was to crush the humans and make an example of them. "These humans are insects," Thokvar told his officers. "I will step on them and move on to more important things." But the humans were not sitting still. All across their space, colonies were getting ready for war. On the mining world of New Texas, Governor Bill Roberts was turning his people into fighters. "We're miners, not soldiers," said Foreman Jack Williams. Today we're both, Roberts replied. These aliens want to make us slaves. Over my dead body. The miners took their big drilling machines and turned them into weapons. Their cargo ships became warships. Even the old transport pilot, Grandma Betty Murphy, strapped guns to her ship. On the farming world of Green Valley, the colonists did something the aliens would never expect. They disappeared underground. Engineer Mary Foster had designed a whole network of tunnels under the farms. When the aliens come, we'll pop up behind them like prairie dogs, she laughed. Captain Morrison's ship hit another Vorthak patrol near the asteroid belt. This time they tried Pete Johnson's new trick. The human weapons hit the alien shields at just the right frequency. Their shields are down, shouted Commander Burke. The small human ship darted between the huge alien cruisers like a hummingbird. The Vorthak tried to turn and follow, but they were too slow and clumsy. This is like fighting elephants, laughed pilot Sam Carter as he spun the ship around an asteroid. Dr. Grant was watching the alien crew through their sensors. Look at how they move. Everything they do is by the book. They never improvise or adapt. Tony Rodriguez had an idea. What if we board one of their ships? Are you crazy? Asked Dr. Grant. Probably. Rodriguez grinned. But I'm also curious. I want to see how tough these lizards really are. Captain Morrison thought about it. It was dangerous, but they needed to know more about their enemies. Do it, Tony. Take a small team and see what you can learn. The Marines put on their armor and grabbed their weapons. Rodriguez picked his best fighters, Sergeant Lucy Turner, Corporal Mike Stone, and Private Danny Kim. They were small compared to the aliens, but they were fast and smart. The human ship rammed into the side of a Vorthak cruiser. The Marines jumped through the hole in the alien hull. Inside the ship, it was dark and smoky. Emergency lights flashed red. The first Vorthak they met was huge and scary. It roared and charged at them like an angry dinosaur. But Rodriguez was ready. He dodged to the side and his team opened fire. The alien was tough, but it was also slow and predictable. They fight like robots, Rodriguez said into his radio. No creativity at all. The Marines moved through the ship like ghosts. The aliens could not catch them. Every time the Vorthak thought they knew where the humans were, the Marines appeared somewhere else. Back on the Vorthak command ship, War Master Thokvar was getting bad news. Sir, the humans have boarded the Thunder of Conquest. Our troops cannot stop them. Impossible, Thokvar roared. Send more ships. But the humans were already gone. They had learned what they needed to know and escaped back to their ship. The Vorthak were left confused and angry. Captain, Rodriguez reported to Morrison, these aliens are strong and tough, but they're not smart fighters. They do everything, the same way every time. We can beat them. The word spread through human space. The aliens were tough, but they could be beaten. Humans just had to fight like humans, fast, smart, and unpredictable. War Master Thokvar gathered his huge fleet. He was sure that 50 warships would be enough to crush these annoying humans. He had no idea what he was really up against. The humans were ready. They had learned the aliens' weaknesses. Now it was time to show the Vorthak what happened when you picked a fight with humanity. War Master Thokvar arrived in human space with 50 massive warships. He was confident this would be easy. No species had ever stood against the Vorthak Empire for long, but he was about to learn that humans were different from any enemy he had ever faced. The first surprise came from an unexpected place. A sleek silver ship appeared near his fleet. It was not human, but it was not Vorthak either. A calm voice spoke through the communications. War Master Thokvar, I am Wise Speaker. Veltara of the Kethmori people, we wish to speak with you. Thokvar knew the Kethmori. They were smart, but weak. They never fought anyone. What do you want, coward? He growled. We want to warn you, Veltara said. These humans are not like the others you have conquered. Turn back now while you still can. Thokvar laughed. It sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. 50 warships will crush these insects. Watch and learn what happens to those who defy the Vorthak. But Veltara was already gone. The silver ship disappeared into space. What Thokvar did not know was that the Kethmori had been secretly helping the humans. They had been watching the Vorthak Empire for years, waiting for someone brave enough to fight back. Far behind enemy lines, Lieutenant Commander Amy Foster was on the most dangerous mission of her life. Her stealth ship, the Ghostwalker, was deep in Vorthak space. With her were pilot Jack Stevens and specialist Maria Lopez. They were gathering information that could save humanity. "This is incredible," Amy whispered as she looked at her scanner readings. "The Vorthak Empire is huge, but it's not as strong as it looks." Jack was flying the ship through an asteroid field to avoid detection. "What do you mean?" Maria was studying alien communication signals. "Look at this. There are dozens of other species under Vorthak rule, and they're all angry about it." Amy realized what this meant. They've been waiting for someone to show them that the Vorthak can be beaten. We might have just given them hope. Meanwhile, Major Tim Carter was leading the boldest attack in human history. His battalion of Marines was about to board a Vorthak dreadnought, the biggest, most powerful ship in their fleet. "Remember," Carter told his troops, "they're big and strong, but they're slow and predictable. Stay fast, stay smart, and we'll win this." The Marines attached their ship to the side of the alien dreadnought and cut through the hull. Inside, the ship was massive and dark. Emergency lights cast strange shadows on the walls. The first Vorthak they met was Sub-Admiral Grokthi, the ship's commander. He was huge, covered in natural armor, and very angry. "Tiny humans," he roared. "You dare to board my ship?" "We dare to do a lot of things," Carter replied, then gave the signal to attack. The fighting was brutal. The aliens were strong and tough, but the humans were fast and clever. Marine Sergeant Ben Clark used his small size to crawl through air vents and attack from above. Corporal Lisa Wang threw grenades that confused the aliens and made them panic. The biggest surprise came when the Marines cornered Sub-Admiral Grokthi. Instead of fighting to the death like a human would, he surrendered. The Vorthak were not used to losing, and they did not know how to handle defeat. "Interesting," Carter said, as they tied up the alien commander. "These tough guys give up pretty easily when things go wrong." Back on Earth, Intelligence Officer Helen Ross was questioning the captured alien. Grokthi was huge and scary, but he was also confused and frightened. "Your empire has ruled for 300 years, Helen said. "You've conquered dozens of species. What makes you so powerful?" Grokthi looked at her with his big yellow eyes. "We are strong. We follow orders. We never question our leaders." "And what happens when your leaders make mistakes?" The alien looked confused. "Leaders do not make mistakes. That is impossible." Helen understood. The Vorthak were powerful because they all worked together. But this was also their weakness. They could not think for themselves or adapt when things changed. Dr. Grant had been studying everything they learned about the aliens. She made an important discovery about how their minds worked. "Captain Morrison," she reported, "the Vorthak are like a giant machine. Every part has a specific job. When everything works normally, they're incredibly efficient. But when something unexpected happens, they freeze up." This information was sent to every human ship and colony. Now they knew how to fight their enemies. Admiral Webb was putting together the biggest human fleet ever assembled. Ships came from every colony and every world. There were military vessels like the Thunderbolt commanded by Captain Nick Bailey, and converted civilian ships like the Storm Chaser under Captain Rebecca Clark. "We're not the biggest fleet in space," Admiral Webb told his captains, "but we're the smartest and the bravest. That will have to be enough." The aliens were gathering too. Supreme War Master Korthak the Conqueror was bringing 200 warships to crush humanity once and for all. He was the greatest Vorthak general who had ever lived, and he had never lost a battle. "These humans have embarrassed us long enough," Korthak declared to his commanders. "I will make an example of them that will keep every species in the galaxy in line for the next 1,000 years." But something was happening that neither Korthak nor Thokvar knew about. All across the Vorthak Empire, other species were starting to rebel. The news of human resistance had spread like wildfire. On the mining world of Ketha Prime, the enslaved Zephyrians stopped working and hid in the tunnels. On the agricultural planet of Vextar, the mollusk people destroyed their own crops rather than feed their oppressors. The most surprising rebellion came from the Crystalline Collective, a species that had been enslaved for 200 years. They used their natural ability to manipulate electricity to shut down Vorthak communications across 3 star systems. Amy Foster's team was still deep in enemy territory when they witnessed something amazing. A Vorthak supply convoy was attacked by rebel ships from 6 different species working together. "Jack, are you seeing this?" Amy asked. "Yeah," the pilot replied. "The whole empire is falling apart, all because we showed them that the Vorthak could be beaten." As the human and Vorthak fleets moved toward their final battle, the galaxy was changing. The age of Vorthak supremacy was ending, and a new age of freedom was beginning. But first, there would be one last fight, and it would decide the fate of every species in known space. The final battle began in the Kepler 442 system. 200 Vorthak warships faced off against the largest human fleet ever assembled. Admiral Webb stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the massive alien armada through the main screen. "They're huge," whispered Lieutenant Sarah Kim at her station. "So were the dinosaurs," Admiral Webb replied. "Look how that turned out for them." Supreme War Master Korthak, the Conqueror, commanded the Vorthak fleet from his massive flagship. The eternal domination. He had never lost a battle in 50 years of warfare. Today would not be his first defeat. "Begin the attack," Korthak ordered. "Show these humans the price of defying the Vorthak Empire." The alien ships opened fire. Massive plasma beams shot across space like lightning bolts. Several human ships exploded immediately. The smaller vessels looked like toys next to the alien dreadnoughts. "All ships evasive maneuvers," Admiral Webb commanded. "Execute Plan Delta." The human fleet scattered like a flock of birds. Instead of meeting the aliens head-on, they darted between the massive ships like mosquitoes around elephants. The Vorthak tried to follow, but their huge vessels were too slow. Captain Nick Bailey piloted his converted cargo ship, the Thunderbolt, right under a Vorthak cruiser. "This is crazy," shouted his gunner, Corporal Dave Martinez. "Crazy works." Bailey laughed as he fired at the alien ship's belly. Meanwhile, Commodore Morrison led a group of fast attack ships toward the alien flagship. His old crew was with him: Dr. Grant, Commander Burke, and Captain Rodriguez. They had started this war and they wanted to finish it. "Remember," Morrison told his pilots, "we're not trying to destroy their ships. We're trying to break their network." Engineer Captain Paul Wright was working on the most important mission of the battle. His team of computer experts, led by Lieutenant Danny Kim, had found a way into the Vorthak communication system. "Almost there," Paul muttered as his fingers flew across his keyboard. "These aliens link all their ships together through one central network. If we can hack it, we can turn their greatest strength into their biggest weakness," Danny finished. The Vorthak were getting frustrated. Their powerful weapons kept missing the fast human ships. Every time they thought they had a target, it disappeared behind an asteroid or another ship. "How can such small ships be so hard to hit?" demanded Subcommander Vexkar. "They fight without honor," Korthak roared. "They do not follow the rules of war." That was exactly the point. Humans had never read the Vorthak rulebook. Captain Rebecca Clark was leading a squadron of mining ships that had been turned into fighters. Her crew were not soldiers, but they were tough. Miner Joe Parker was firing a drilling laser at an alien cruiser. "In space, no one can hear you drill," Joe laughed. The breakthrough came when Paul Wright's team finally cracked the alien network. "We're in," Danny Kim shouted. "Uploading the virus now." The virus spread through the Vorthak fleet like a disease. One by one, their ships began losing power. Emergency lights flickered. Life support systems failed. The mighty alien armada was suddenly helpless. "What is happening?" Korthak demanded. "Sir, all our systems are failing," reported his chief engineer. "It's like our own network is attacking us." The human fleet immediately pressed their advantage. Colonel Price led boarding parties onto dozens of disabled alien ships. Her Marines moved through the darkened vessels like ghosts, capturing confused and frightened Vorthak soldiers. Major Carter found himself face to face with a group of alien warriors in a damaged cruiser. The Vorthak were big and strong, but they were lost without their technology and chain of command. "Surrender," Carter told them. Your war is over. The aliens looked at each other in confusion. They had never been taught how to lose. Supreme War Master Korthak realized his fleet was doomed, but he would not surrender. He ordered his flagship to ram the human command ship. If he was going to die, he would take Admiral Webb with him. Sir, the alien flagship is heading straight for us, reported the tactical officer. Not if I can help it, said Captain Steve Murphy. He was the best pilot in the human fleet, and he led a squadron of the fastest fighters. Murphy's ships swarmed around the alien flagship like angry bees. They targeted the engines with surgical precision. The massive ship shuddered and began to lose speed. Engine room to bridge, came a voice over the alien ship's communications. Main engines are offline. We cannot maintain course. Korthak watched in disbelief as his mighty flagship drifted helplessly through space. Around him, his entire fleet was either destroyed or captured. Marine Sergeant Lucy Turner led a boarding party onto the alien flagship. She found Korthak on his bridge, surrounded by his defeated officers. I am Supreme War Master Korthak the Conqueror, he said with as much dignity as he could manage. I have never been defeated. Well, Lucy replied, today's your unlucky day. The battle was over. The greatest Vorthak fleet in history had been destroyed by humans who refused to fight by alien rules. But the real victory was bigger than just one battle. All across the galaxy, the news spread like wildfire. The Vorthak Empire, which had seemed invincible for 300 years, had been beaten by a species they had never heard of just months before. On dozens of worlds, enslaved species rose up against their Vorthak masters. The Crystalline Collective declared independence. The Zephyrians took back their mining worlds. The mollusk people reclaimed their farms. The Vorthak Empire, built on fear and the belief in their own invincibility, collapsed like a house of cards. 3 months later, Admiral Hayes stood before the newly formed Galactic Council. Representatives from 50 different species had come to discuss the future of their part of space. The age of empires built on conquest and slavery is over, she announced. From now on, all species will be treated as equals. The former Supreme War Master Korthak, now a prisoner, watched the proceedings on a screen in his cell. For the first time in his life, he was learning about concepts like freedom and equality. Captain Morrison, now Admiral Morrison, was overseeing the construction of the first joint species space station. Humans worked alongside former enemies and new friends. Dr. Grant was sharing human medical knowledge with alien doctors. Colonel Price was training mixed-species security teams. The galaxy was changing, and humans were helping to lead that change. You know, Dr. Grant said to Morrison as they watched humans and aliens working together, I think this is what we were meant to do. Not conquer or rule, but inspire others to be free. Morrison nodded. The aliens thought they were tough. But they learned that being tough isn't about how big you are or how many guns you have. It's about never giving up, never backing down, and always fighting for what's right. In the end, humanity's greatest victory was not defeating the Vorthak Empire. It was showing the galaxy that freedom was possible, and that even the smallest species could stand up to the biggest bullies. The stars belong to everyone now.